The Nintendo Switch is here, and just like with the last few console releases, we see a game at launch that is mostly being done to show off what the Switch is capable of. Some consider it mostly just a tech demo, like Wii Sports or Nintendo Land on the Wii U, and this generation's version of that is 1-2 Switch. But does this game end up being a little bit more than just a mini-game fest, or is it exactly what you think it's gonna be? 1-2 Switch is the kind of game you're going to take to parties or when you have people over, break it out. It's great for those who may not necessarily be big gamers. But that doesn't mean that there isn't still fun and enjoyment to be had with the overall minigames and the way that everything is handled. If for some reason you were trying to find another single-player experience on the Switch, you're gonna want to avoid this. In fact, I think only one game in the entire list is able to be played just by yourself. All the rest of them require playing against someone, so if you're not going to be playing with other people, obviously you're going to want to avoid the title. However, once you start getting into the minigames themselves, I was actually surprised at not only how fun they were, but how well they worked. When you first boot up the game, you have a small selection of games. Mostly, I think, to try to get you adjusted to the way everything works before it throws you the more complicated ones, but it doesn't give you an indication. So at first I thought maybe there's only 6 or 7 games, but after playing about 10 or so rounds, we unlocked all the rest of them, and that's really where the game ended up opening up for us. There's a few different modes, including a team battle mode where 2 teams switch off between each other, switching off the Joy-Cons, going one-on-one against one another, and the winner gets to spin a wheel and move around the game board, and wherever you land, you'll be playing that particular minigame until eventually one team ends up making it to the goal. You can also play every one of the minigames individually, so you can pick which ones you end up liking the most and just compete against one another in those particular ones. When selecting each game, there's an amount of chilies in the lower left corner that represent how difficult the game is to play. So for those who are looking for the more challenging games, obviously more chilies means that there's more involved in the game to either learn or be able to actually do. And obviously the ones with less are a bit easier, so they may be for people that have no idea what exactly they're getting themselves into and are good starter points as far as the games are concerned. The most impressive thing, though, with the games in 1-2 Switch are that they pretty much work. In fact, I think there was only a couple of times throughout each where we felt like the thing wasn't doing what we were trying to. Motion control finally felt right here on Nintendo Switch after multiple generations of dealing with motion control on Nintendo consoles. The big thing with 1-2 Switch, though, is that you're not looking at the TV. You're looking at your opponent. Everything that you need as far as cues are concerned come from the television itself, from the sound, or come from the individual Joy-Con, such as the vibration and little things so that you know exactly what's going on and when you should pick it up and hit each button and do whatever motions you need to do with it. This does require quiet, though, so even at a party, people are going to have to quiet down so that you're able to hear those cues, or else you're just going to end up being lost. While I won't go over every single one of the 28 games included here, I did want to go over a few key highlights, the ones that me and my friends end up finding the most fun after playing the game for several hours. This includes the samurai game where one person's bringing down the sword and the other person has to grab the blade mid-swing. The baseball one, where one person's pitching, the other person's hitting, and the sound effects work well. One person, as the pitcher, is throwing either fastballs or changeups, and as you're hearing the sound of the ball flying, you have to time your swing accordingly. And if you do it right, you'll smash a home run. Being off slightly, you'll end up getting a ground ball or end up popping up into the air and becoming an out. In fact, I wish there was a fuller version of the baseball game so you could play more innings than just the single one that is included. There's a shaving game where you actually have to hold the Joy-Con up to your chin. It recognizes where that placement is, and then you actually shave, and whoever can shave off the most or shave off all of the beard itself is the winner there. There are plenty of funny and moments that will have you either being embarrassed or laughing your butt off as you watch your friends trying to attempt these games, such as the dancing one, where you have to dance, flailing your arms everywhere, strike poses in order to earn points. The more movement of the Joy-Con as you're dancing, the more points you're going to end up earning. There's a runway game where you have to hold the Joy-Con down at one spot and then actually strut across a runway in order to try to get more points in that way. There's also the inclusion of ping pong, which actually works really well. In fact, hearing the sound of the ping pong ball bouncing back and forth, if you time it right, you'll be able to knock it back. You can do lob hits to your opponent, which will change up the sounds. And if you're just a little bit too early or too late, you'll end up losing that point. And then there's the cow milking game. Number one, it actually surprisingly works, where you have to hit the top button within the inside of the Joy-Con first, and then slowly bring it down, pressing the second button. It was hilarious. I'm sorry, like, this alone was one of the funnest moments as far as the game was concerned, because everyone in the room, including while I was live streaming it, was having a good laugh. A couple other highlights include, of course, the quick draw event, which is one of the highlights back when they first showed off the game, where you're told to fire, you have to pull the Joy-Con up from your hip and fire at your opponent. It tells you how quick you were able to do it and the trajectory that you took with your particular shot. There's a flag raising game that reminds me very much of Shy Guy Says from the Mario Party titles, a clown game where you have to spin a plate on top of a stick, a yoga posing one where basically you're giving a pose and you have to hold it for as long as possible. The person that breaks it the most ends up being the loser, and a few others, like the gorilla one where you have to beat out the rhythm like a gorilla, trying to get the affection of the female gorilla. From the technical side of things, the Joy-Cons did work, which is the essential part of the game. Stuff like the small vibrations, where you have this dice game, and basically it vibrates to tell you what dice roll you currently have, and you have to have a higher one than your opponent. There's also stuff like the safe cracking one, where you have to slowly rotate and you'll get feelings in the Joy-Con so that you know when you're on that right number. And of course, stuff like the ball counting game, where you have a box and you're moving it back and forth and you can hear the sounds and feel the vibrations of the balls hitting the side of the box, and you have to guess how many are inside. Honestly, this is the kind of game you're not buying for just yourself, and may not even be worth it if you're just playing with one other person. If you're going to be going to parties or social events, and you guys would just want to have it so you can throw it in there casually when you have a bigger group around, 1-2-Switch will provide a lot of funny and fun moments at those situations. However, it's $49.99, which is just way too high. It should have been either a much lower price point, or better yet, it should have been a pack-in title, as it truly does end up just showcasing what the Joy-Cons are going to be capable of, and it actually makes me excited to see a little bit, just a little bit, of other motion-related games, such as a new WarioWare title, which I think would be spectacular on the Nintendo Switch. With everything said, I'm going to be giving 1-2-Switch an 8 out of 10. I wish it was a little bit cheaper. Of course, I would like more minigames, but 28 are actually pretty fun, and that's a good amount to include here, and I'm rating it solely as the party game, as the party atmosphere with lots of people playing at once. Buying it for yourself, or maybe just with one other person, stay away from it. It's not worth getting. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.